Match coverage is a coverage that was in the game last year, was in the game really for the past 6 years or so. And you have to understand the difference between match and understand the difference between match and regular zone drops. So traditional cover 3, traditional cover 2 really puts guys into spot drops. So when I say spot drop or traditional zone drop coverage, guys are dropping to landmarks, right? So if I was to pick, let's just say, I don't know if I even have them right now in my playbook, I don't, but if I was to pick cover 3, sky, right? You have, everybody has a landmark, 10, 15 yards, and you can even change it in the coaching adjustments this year. Match coverage goes with different rules, which is what I explain in all my videos about, depending on the route distribution. So depending on what your receiver does, then you have to do something to respond to that, to react to that. So if 2 goes out, you stay with them. If 2 goes up, you don't, whatever it is. So that's the idea of match coverage, which really is a great way to take away a majority of routes that you think might hurt you. The original idea of match coverage really got popular with the Seattle Seahawks and how they did things. I was fortunate enough to be around the New York Jets and around the early 2000s, 2010 season, when the coverage was put in really to take away verticals routes from spread sets. So it was playing like cover 1, right? This is really 3 match I'm talking about right now, but quarters is the same idea. So quarters was built more of a college-based system, taking away the vertical threats of wide receivers and formations, but also allowing it to be adaptive to that. If the receivers did not go vertical, it turns back into a zone defense. Essentially, it turns back into the defense that it originally was named after, cover 3 or cover 4. So the rule that you learn as you go through some of these coverages is, if you don't get a vertical, what are you going to do? You're going to sit there and do nothing? No, you're going to sit there and actually play another receiver and help out where needed. So that's where the coverage becomes really effective versus different types of combinations. Plus, all the match coverages for the most part are really good versus the run, because you're keying you're keying receivers, and if they block, you can now attack and play the run gaps a lot faster than if you were thinking spot dropping. All right, so that's the overall idea. But what I really wanted to do with this tip was to talk about really more about how it works this year. So if you are going to play match coverage, right, you want the match rules to apply like they have in the past 6 or 7 years, you have to go into your coaching adjustments and you have to turn on zone, go to zone coverage and turn on match. Now what that does is, anytime you see a play that has a match principle technique attached to it, so let's say for example cover 3 seam, right, that has a match principle, match idea. Same, it was 3 match last year, so it has match principles attached to it. It will play the match rules. Just understand this: if you do, for some reason, let's say you call cover 2 Tampa 2, right, it will not play with match rules. It only applies to the coverages that actually match is a part of. So cover 6 is a match type of coverage, so it will play when you turn on the match rules, cover 6 match. If for some reason you didn't want to play cover 6 match and you wanted to play old school cover 6 drop, cover 6 traditional plays, you will now go back into your coaching adjustments, turn off, put it back to default, and now cover 6 will play with pure zone droppers from the underneath levels and the third level, the DB level, the deepest level. So that's something you have to understand. So in short, let me say it a different way, maybe it'll hit home differently. If I turn on match coverage, right, in my coaching adjustments, it plays like last year's game. Okay, it plays like last year's game. So cover 6 has match rules. Cover 3 cloud does not have match rules. It is just a basic defense, and you can leave on your coaching match adjustments, but still play cover 3 cloud just like it's built. Traditional cover 3 cloud drop. So that's the way it works. All right. So basically, what I do every time I start the game is I jump back up in here. I go right into zone coverage, and I turn on match. So now it plays like last year's game. But if for some reason you don't want to mess with any match coverage, you don't, unless for some reason you want to call 3-seam and you just want to call it. If you have match coverages off by default, it will play like 3-sky. It will play just like the art that you see there. So hopefully that makes sense to everybody that's listening. I want to make sure that that's clear, because that's something new that they did this year, and I think they're trying to work backwards and reverse engineer it so that the game eventually may not have match coverage at all. But they figured, instead of forcing you into match coverage, the people that understand it and take the time out to learn it and really study match coverage can gain an advantage in this game by turning it on in your coaching adjustments. All right. Now, the second part of this video is a video that I did last year, talking about if you are in match coverage, okay, you call match coverage, what happens when you make adjustments? It's really simple, man. If I call match coverage and I want to play cover 4 quarters, right, on the right of the screen, cover 4 quarters, it will play, as I said, match rules if you have it on match. As soon as you change any 3 of these adjustments here to a zone drop, which they put in the game last year, it will now revert back to zone spot drop coverage. Not just the guys that are here, but also the guys on the 3rd level. So I'll say it again. If I was to change any of these, even if I put 2 of them on default, right, and I change flats to, let's say, 15 yards, right, and I want to jump out, and I still have match coverage on, and I want to jump out and play cover 6. What happens is, as soon as the way they program the game, as soon as you turn on any adjustment with the zone drops, now the total defense, everybody is going to play traditional zone drops that are default in the game, with the modification that your flat defender is going to play at 15 yards. Okay, so that's how it works. So understand that you can have on match coverage, but as soon as you start messing with any of these things, it changes everything. Okay, now the part that happened last year a lot was, we're playing match coverage. Okay, we want to play 3-seam. Okay, so I'm going to call 3-seam, and I'm going to come out and I'm going to play against, hopefully I have I think this is, I should have some sort of vertical route in here somewhere. Let's just go against Niners cross. Okay, now we're in 3-seam match coverage. Okay, so when the play is called here, let's look at the left of the screen. That nickel or whoever it is playing over the slot should match number 2 to the flat, right? He didn't, maybe because the ball was thrown. All right, but in general, the match coverage rules of 3-seam should apply to this play. Okay, there we go. We got the match over there by the 3-seam player, by the nickel player. Now, if I was to change and go with the coverage adjustments triangle on the PlayStation 5 and change my coverage adjustments to underneath, which now changes my curl flat defenders to flat hard flat defenders, what happens is now they will do their assignments underneath, but you have to understand the deeper guys will still play match. And where this probably is a better example of understanding what happens is if you play quarters match and you play palms match. That's where it gets a little bit more crazy, because you have to understand, in palms match and cover 9 and cover 6, sometimes the underneath defenders have to defend a vertical route, and that's the difference between playing those more advanced match coverages. You will have underneath defenders matching verticals depending on the route combination, and I can explain that more in my videos that are coming up soon. But in general, if you make any adjustments out of the underneath coverage and you don't understand, depending on the formation, how it can burn you, you could possibly take your defense and give up a long touchdown for no reason. So let's watch the slot receiver here to the left, number 2. If the quarterback has time, that slot receiver should be wide open. All right, in that case, there was an extra player there with the backside guy, but in general, in palms, this quarter flat defender actually reads 2 to 3 and actually plays the vertical of 2 if 3 goes vertical. And if for some reason you change that and put him into a hard flat, it's a wrap. You can't get that same reaction anymore. All right, and now number 2, if he was to run straight up the field away from that free safety, away from the strong safety, it would be an easy touchdown. I've seen so many guys at high levels in playoff games mess that up and not understand how that works. I can go into more detail on that, but I would just say this: if you're going to play match coverage, do not change the underneath assignments. Just leave them alone. So don't change them from this standpoint. Don't come down here and try to change any of the zone hooks, zone curl flats. Just leave it default if you're playing match. And then while you're in the game, I would not mess around with putting guys in underneath or over the top coverage, or try to man somebody up on somebody, unless you are trying to take something away and you understand the risk at hand. As we go through more of the match videos, I'll explain the risk at hand and you will get a better feel for things. But I really wanted to put this tip video out early in the cycle so people understand how calling match coverage matters with your underneath drops. And if you really want to play it true and you want to follow with what I'm going with, just leave it in default, leave everything in default. Just come in here and just put match coverage on, and it will apply to all the plays that have match coverage, and I'll tell you what those plays are as we go along. All right, hope you guys enjoyed this tip video, first one of the year, just kind of giving you an idea of how things work with match coverage. Really should have been my first video of the year in general instead of putting out the first quarter's video, but you know what, I caught it early, got it out there, and now we can roll. Peace.